Hey people, D-Man here, and today I am reviewing Steven Universe, the series. So from Steven Universe to Steven Universe Future, all the way, well, from Steven Universe all the way to Steven Universe Future. The first season all the way to the 6th, I guess you would call Steven Universe Future the 6th season. So, anyways, let's get into it. So, Steven Universe is a tale as old as time. It's where a woman messes up and has to have a man, not even a man, a boy, fix all her problems. And then at the end, the man also messes up. And it turns out that it's better to have multiple people help with your problems and not just one single person. So, in retrospect, you, as an individual, and also many other people, can mess up a heck of a lot and do a lot of damage to not only your life, but other lives. That goes for you and everybody else. And I guess that also goes for multiple people. You can also do that in a group as well. Mess up and do something horrible. But it also proves that you as an individual, along with everybody else, can fix things, or at least try to fix things, and make things better for you and the people around you. But at the same time, it's also saying, hey, sometimes you need help, and that's okay, because more people can fix things than just one person can fix it by themselves. It's easier to get more people to fix it than just you by yourself. You know what I mean? That's the whole story. That's the whole thing of the story is just like, hey, you can make things horrible and you can fix things, but together we can fix things much better. And also, everybody's redeemable. That's also a part of the story. Although, I have my opinion on there, but we'll get to that later. Okay. So, what do I want to talk about first? Oh, excuse me. So, what do I want to talk about first of Steven Universe? Do I want to talk about the negatives or the positives? Because there's a heck ton of negatives and a few positives. Now that I've watched the whole thing and experienced it, what do I want to talk about? I think I'm going to talk about the negatives first because, I don't know, those last episodes kind of made me want to rant. Okay, so let's start off with the negatives. So what's the biggest negative, or what's the smaller negatives? I guess there's no really good place to start with the negatives, so let's just start. So, Steven Universe has quite a bit of negatives, such as a lot of questions that aren't answered yet, a lot of questions that aren't solved yet. Also, a lot of episodes that were kind of useless and didn't really need to be there, saying towny episodes. And also, it was very rushed at the same time, which is very sad because it had such an interesting plot line. And at the same time as that, it also had a stupid morality to a certain extent. Let's get into the episodes that shouldn't have been there first. So, it had a lot of towny episodes. Now, these episodes should not have been there because they were useless and annoying except for maybe a few of them. And they were kind of just a waste of time, to be honest, just like a time filler. So, you know, a lot of people would say it's a filler. Even I would say it's a filler, but a lot of people would say, like, no, all those episodes counted towards something. Spoiler alert, they didn't. So yeah, like a lot of it was just filler and kind of dumb, kind of stupid, kind of just useless. which leads us into our second point, the rushness of it. They were all very, very rushed at the end, like the plot lines. The actual good storyline was rushed. Because it has such an interesting premise and a good premise. And it has like good bad guys and stuff like that. But they were all really rushed. They were all just like, hey, here's a villain, but let's do it in like 2 episodes to 4 episodes. So let's snap. We could have had like a few towny episodes, and then had like 10 or so episodes of just lore. That would have been awesome. 10 or so episodes just leading up to like the whole lore thing, instead of just going like, here's a towny. Here's 2 things of actual lore and actual plot relevance. By the way, we're gonna rush those 2 things. We're going to make them really fast, because that's just the way we do things here. So that was really upsetting. The whole towny thing, and then like the whole like rushing the end product. Just could have done a better job on that, in my personal opinion, obviously. Like, they could have done less towny episodes and more lore-based episodes, and actually led up to something. They could have actually led up to something fairly well, but they never seem to do that. They're just like, here's a towny episode. Oh, by the way, this is going to happen in the next episode, and we're going to rush it. You know what I mean? It's like one moment Steven's talking to the people at the pizza place, or Lars, or Sadie, and then the next moment he's getting abducted by aliens. So yeah, that was kind of a weak point on it. And then we have, like, probably one of the weakest points is the morality of the whole show. It's basically saying, like, hey, everybody can be redeemed. Which is maybe possible. Not really, though. It's a hard subject to say. Because there is no black and white. There's just like moral gray parts, you know? Like, there's no good and evil purely. It's just kind of like morally gray. But Steven Universe, the show, seems to like make every villain be able to get like redeemed, except maybe a few at the end, which was Aqua. I think her name was Aquamarine, right? The little blue girl with the teardrop gem, and also Ruby, or Eyeball, I think people call her, right? Yeah, like, also Ruby. Those 2 didn't get redeemed. Mean Lapis didn't get redeemed, I guess, as well. And we never got to see him again, by the way. All questions answered, my butt. So yeah, those 2 people didn't get redeemed, but every other one did. Like Jasper, literally just beating up Steven, and then at the end it's just like, oh, she's redeemed, by the way. She's finally into her own person and redeemed. She's killed tons of people, or tons of gems at least, but no, we're gonna redeem her. The Diamonds, the worst example. Like, literal dictatorial leadership that have shattered tons of gems and treated them like absolute garbage for like all the time since they were ever created, I guess. They shattered them, they destroyed them, they made experiments out of them. If they weren't following the rules, they would just do whatever the hell they wanted, just whenever. Not to mention, they also destroyed organic life and basically committed genocide. And I heard like one of the crew members, I've seen like a tweet from one of them saying like, hey, technically they never did genocide. They just kind of like destroyed organic life. Nothing that had sentience. Technically, you could say that's still genocide, because if we kill a species that doesn't technically have sentience to the point of a human being, we're still making that species go extinct, so it's kind of still genocide, you know what I mean? Like, humanity literally genocided the dodos. We literally killed the dodos, along with several other species. So, I mean, you could say technically that's not genocide, since they're not, like, fully, they're not, they're not, like, fully sentient, but it's still kind of genocide. And plus, all those planets that they attacked could have had a chance of eventually getting intelligent life, because for some reason they needed organic material. But yeah, like, the diamonds were literally just like forgiven in like 4 episodes, and then people were like, no, they weren't forgiven, they'll forgive them later. And then later we get to see them in future where they're actually trying to help people, which is, I guess, a good step in the right direction, but still nothing compared to what they have done. You know, like, if I knew someone that murdered people, and then he was just like, well, now I'm giving back to society. You know, now I'm giving back to society, I'm donating money, I'm helping out in homeless shelters and stuff like that. I'm like, you still murdered a bunch of a bunch of people and a bunch of things. You're still a horrible person. But no, in the crew, like in Steven Universe, it's like, nah, they're cool now. It's kind of dumb. I don't know. It's just a dumb thing to have happen, I guess. There should have been more consequences to these antagonists, but there wasn't. They're like, no, they can be redeemed. Me, as a person, I just don't think that's possible for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, for some people, yes, they can be redeemed because they did something small, or maybe they did something they didn't mean to, or maybe they're just a good person at heart, or maybe they do turn into a good person later on. But for a lot of people, you can't redeem some people. Like, could you redeem Hitler? Probably not. Not unless he, like, I don't know, discovered the cure for cancer or world hunger, and then gave it out for free. And even then, it would be really hard to redeem someone like that. And you could technically say that the diamonds are kind of worse than Hitler is, in a figurative way, because they're obviously not real, so they're not worse. But, like, in figurative speaking, they are, because they destroyed so much planets. So yeah, like, the whole, like, oh, everybody's being able to be redeemed, it's kind of stupid. It's like, no, not everybody can be redeemed. What else? Let's see, all the unanswered questions. All the unanswered questions and not Portum. All the unanswered questions. Like, I just find this very disappointing in the series, by the way. Like, they have a whole bunch of unanswered questions. Like, there was a dome in season 1 that never had any follow-up, and they're just like, oh, that dome's there, it's just a thing that's there. And if it ever breaks open, bad stuff will happen. You know? Okay. And then we have the squirrel from season 1 as well. Squirrel, not squirrel. Squirrel. Where Garnet has to literally melt it in lava, and also throw away all the pictures that anybody has of it, because it's, like, so dangerous, and we don't know what that is either. So those are 2 things from season 1 that never got talked about. What about the time hourglass? That never got talked about again. Some of the murals never got talked about again either. What was in Lion's like the chest in Lion's mane? That never got talked about. What happened to some of the villains? Never got talked about. So there's other things as well but I just can't think of them. But yeah, there's a bunch of unanswered questions that were kind of unsatisfying, and it's just kind of like, what? And then we get to another problem, which is the execution of the show and what they decided to do with the premise. So, as I was already saying, the premise is one of the good parts of the show because it's like such an interesting premise, but the execution of it kind of sucked. Oh, one of the questions I was thinking about was where did the gems come from? Because they're like computers almost. So you would assume that there was a creator of the gems, but we never get that answered either, by the way, which kind of sucks. But yeah, that's something that we never get answered. But anyways, back to the plot and why they didn't implement it correctly, in my personal opinion. Okay, so the plot was a really good plot. It had really good things going for it, but they didn't implement some things correctly. Like, I really wanted to see Steven meeting his... I guess it's not like they didn't implement it correctly. I guess it's just like they could have done better things with it, I guess, in my personal opinion. And here's a few things I'll tell you, in my personal opinion, what they could have done with it. Well, oh, and another question. I know I keep on going back to the things that haven't been answered yet. But another one is, why do they have to have organic life forms when they're creating gems? That was something I found very interesting, and I didn't know why. Because there's tons of planets out there that don't have organic life forms on it, and you could just make gems on those. But they chose planets with organic life forms. So they obviously had to have organic life forms to make gems for some reason. But that never got answered. Okay, back to the plot. Okay, so they could have implemented some things way better. Like, I always wanted to see Steven meet up with his mother, and I even came up with like the perfect plan by the end by Steven Universe Future, because a lot of people said that Steven was going to be the monster, and I kind of started to agree by the end. I was hoping it was going to be the creators of the gems, but I was just like, yeah, it's probably going to be Steven. Which is kind of lame because it's kind of a trope, but whatever. But yeah, like, I thought, like, what if Steven goes in there and then his monster or his mother, some part of her lying dormant in the gem, talks to him and goes like, okay, you can go back to yourself and, get help and stuff. It would have been like a really touching moment and really sad, and we would have finally got to talk to Rose present instead of present tense, like, we wouldn't have got to talk to her, like, in the past. We got to talk to her in the future, which would have been really cool to see her perspective and to see what happened and stuff like that. But instead they're like, no, through the power of love and hugs, we're going to save him, which was kind of lame to me. Again, another rushed few episodes, like the last 4 episodes really rushed. If they would have spaced those out better, they could have done a whole scene like that. It would have reminded me of like Naruto when he meets his father and his mother. If you ever seen Naruto Shippuden, eventually he meets his father, and then eventually he meets his mother, and it would have reminded me of those 2 scenes, because it would have been really cool to see Steven talk to his mother and actually finally get to meet her and stuff. And I was even thinking to a certain extent that maybe she could come out into the real world and actually talk to Greg and the gems again and the diamonds. That would have been really cool. And then she finally just faded away. That would have been a really touching, sad moment. But instead we got like, oh no, Steven turns into a monster, and now we're going to hug him and save his life, and he's going to get help. I mean, it was kind of touching. It just would have been more touching to see Rose save the day and finally get her time to shine and show us that she wasn't such a horrible gem or a horrible person. Because a lot of people think like that's irredeemable. But if they would have shown that and actually shown her care, it would have been like, oh my goodness, that's something. But instead they're like, no, he's going to turn into that and then we're going to rush it. Rush. Which is horrible. So that would have been something awesome to put in the plot. Um, Other things they could have put in the plot, like the monster. I thought it would have been cooler if the monster was something else. Like, I thought, like, what about that dome in the first place? What if Steven goes there because he doesn't want to talk to anybody and he's still afraid? So he goes to a place that no one goes to, the dome, I guess, and he accidentally hits it, and then it explodes open, and there's a giant monster in there. It would have been like, oh my goodness, what the hell? And then it just came to Beach City and started to attack stuff. It would have been just like, how the hell did that get in there? And we gotta get an explanation to this. That would have been awesome. But no, it was Steven at the end. I also thought, like, what if Steven, with his new powers, trying to be okay, accidentally hit one of, not like a diamond, but hit one of the gems and turned them into something horrific? Because we saw yellow, white, and blue get new powers. What if that was one of Steven's new powers? He accidentally hits somebody and turns them into a monster, and maybe even, maybe it would have been like one of his friends. That would have been crazy. I mean, there's other things they could have implemented better into the story. Better characters too. Like, I always felt like characters that they misused were like Peridot and Lapis. They had a good run with Peridot, and then they kind of forgot her. And they had a good run with Lapis, and they forgot her. And they're just like, oh, we're going to put these to the side and rarely ever use them. And it's just like, really, guys? Come on. Come on, guys. They could have had so much more interesting storylines with them. It would have been awesome. And also, Bismuth, she had a good storyline, and then at the end she just got shafted, and then Steven eventually released her again, and was like, hey, we're cool now. Okay, cool, that's cool. It would have been better to see him bubble her, and then the other gems take her out and talk to her, and then have more adventures with Bismuth, but nah, that's not. That's stupid. You know what I mean? It's kind of just like, what? Like, what? Come on, guys. And then, like, another one would have been Lars and Lars and the Stars. That would have been a cool few episodes to see, like, his adventures and shift from Steven's perspective to Lars's perspective. Or, like, have Steven join him on some of his adventures. That would have been awesome. Because we heard about them, and they sounded awesome, but then we never got to see them. It's kind of just like, seriously, guys, come on. But no, instead we got fillery, towny episodes. Woohoo! That's what I wanted to see. I didn't want to see Lars be a total awesome person. I wanted to see Steven solving somebody's problem in the town. Woohoo! That's all I need to see. You know what I mean? It would have been super cool. By the way, if there's a spin-off, that would have been a really cool spin-off, or would be a really cool spin-off, if they showed Lars and the Stars. They have to show the past and the future. I think they have to show the past in, like, flashbacks, but they also have to show the future. That would be really cool. And in Steven Universe Future, there could have been a lot more antagonists, because you would expect that there would be gems going after Steven for changing things. But nah, there's none of those. There's only like what, 4? Like literally 4 gems that went after him. It's kind of stupid. By the way, another thing that was stupid is they totally, like, just made the Diamonds stop doing everything and changed everything, yet didn't have law and order still. They could have put law and order in that society. I mean, at the end, they kind of hinted towards, like, a presidency sort of situation, which I guess is cool. But they could have been like, hey, we're not going to rule you guys. We're not going to ruin your guys' lives anymore. But there is still some rules, because you can't just have a lawless society. Or else, you know, stuff what Lapis and Mean Lapis and Nice Lapis did is gonna happen. You know what I mean? You gotta have a society that's good, yet like it's good to its people, yet not dictatorship. So that's another thing they should have changed about it. I guess at the end they kind of did. I don't know. There's just so much unleft things that we could have had answered, and there's so much potential and stuff that could have happened, but instead we just got like, meh. It's like, yeah, we could have done all that, but we did this instead, and this was kind of cool, but it kind of was lackluster at the same time. Okay, so I guess I'm done talking about the bad stuff. I'm going to talk about some good stuff now. Okay, so the good stuff would be, let's see, first off, what I can think about is the songs. Now, I personally didn't like every single song, but I liked the vast majority of them because they were actually really good. Especially the more heartfelt songs are really good. Actually, as a matter of fact, one of the songs is the reason why I got into the show in the first place, and that was Giant Woman. That was a pretty interesting song, and that's why I got into the whole show in the first place. So yeah, like the songs were really good. Most of the time, they were just catchy tunes. And as a matter of fact, the video, not directly after this, but the video of maybe like a bit, like in a few days or so, I will be making like a top 10 song list from Steven Universe. But yeah, that's going to be coming up, so look forward to that. But yeah, like the songs in Steven Universe, damn good. Some of the best things I've heard from a cartoon. I would even say slightly better than Adventure Time. Even though Adventure Time has some really good songs, Steven Universe was more musical than Adventure Time, so I would say slightly better than Adventure Time. Excuse me. What else? What else was good? Okay, the concept, as I already previously said, the concept was great. Like, an interstellar war happened, and then this planet got left to rot with corrupted gems, and Steven had a alien mother that died or sacrificed herself to give birth to him. Really interesting, and it's just like, oh, by the way, those interstellar threats still could be there if they find out that he's still there. So really interesting, and it was just like, whoa, that's a cool plot line. Just poorly executed for the most part. The antagonist, very good. Like Peridot and, well, obviously first off it would be Peridot and Jasper. Very good villains. Poorly used, sadly. Somewhat was good, some of it was poorly used. Yeah, so Peridot and Jasper, very interesting characters. Somewhat goodly used, and then somewhat poorly used. The Diamonds, very interesting characters that were just like these, oh my goodness, beasts that just couldn't be stopped until, they got stopped. So very interesting antagonist. I did like the overall messages, except for like everybody can be redeemed. That was kind of ridiculous. But the whole like, hey, be yourself, feel your feelings, sort of thing, is pretty good. A little bit cringy at times, a little bit too sappy at times, but pretty good nonetheless. The main plot was good, if not a little bit rushed, as I already said, pretty rushed. But the main plot was pretty good for the most part. Of course, there could have been a lot of different changes and stuff, and they did a lot of mistakes. But, you know, we can't have them all, right? The twist at the end, kind of predictable, but okay. Like when Pink Diamond was said to be Rose, a lot of people used to have that theory, and then they kind of dropped off. And except for some people, that was like, no, she is Pink Diamond. Rose is Pink Diamond. I even used to have that theory until I thought, like, probably not anymore. But then I was just like, oh, okay, it's true. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. Had a little twist there. But yeah, all in all, I would say it was a pretty good show. Has its ups, has its downs, has a lot of filler, has a lot of problems in general. Didn't end the best, but didn't end the worst. And just left us with so much more questions. But yeah, if I were to rate this, it would be... If I were to rate this 1 to 10, 1 being bad, 5 being average, 10 being like, oh my goodness, I'd watch that 1,000 times, I would rate this about a 7. Solid 7. I'd watch it, at least most of it, not all of it. You could totally skip a ton of episodes and still have a good experience. But I would watch it and it would be satisfying. So it's a 7. It's a pretty good show. It's just sad that we'll never get answers to all those questions. At least not to our knowledge. Like, what was in that chest in Lion's Mane? What was that dome in Season 1? What was that scroll in Season 1? Whatever happened to the time hourglass from Season 1? What were half of those mirrors and half of the things in Season 1 that we'll never get answers to? What other question? What happened to the other antagonist? What happened to Lars when he was in space, and he still is in space? So what's happening to Lars? Why does Onion never age, and what exactly is he? Will Steven ever get married to Connie? Will they ever have kids? Will Lars ever discover he has powers? And if he has he already? And what will they be? And why did they let Steven leave the house if he's only 16? I mean, he's only 16. That's just bad parenting. Greg and the Gems should have said, hey, wait until you're 18. You're 16, kid. That's way too young to go out on your own. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? That's just bad parenting. And there's other questions that sadly we won't have answers. At least not now. But maybe, just like Adventure Time, in a year or 2 or 3, they'll have episodes that will update us on the story. Maybe, hopefully, and I'm sure eventually, in another 10 or 8 to 10, maybe even 20 years or so, we'll have a remake of Steven Universe because, you know, the networks, and especially TV networks, they always have to have remakes because remakes makes them a lot of money. And it's probably going to be baby-nized because if the trend still goes on from today, it's going to be like, let's make it as baby as possible so every child will watch it and not older people because, you know, we like to ruin series. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave a like. I guess you can't leave a comment because this is for everybody. Go to my Twitter, link down below. Leave a like, subscribe, share this video. Go to my channel and hit that bell notification because that's the best way to keep up with my channel and keep up with all my new videos. And as always, my friends, stay sane Peace. I wonder what's in the future for Steven Universe future. Hey guys, this video is meant for all ages, although I do have videos meant for the older variety. Check out my channel to watch those. But since it's meant for all ages and YouTube doesn't have a button to click for all ages, they only have younger or older, I have to click the younger because some stupid stuff will happen if I don't. But that means some features are removed. Hopefully it still gets to everyone the same, young and old, but that's beside the point. That means comments are no longer there, but don't worry, I have a Twitter, so you can go down to the link below to my Twitter and comment on that because there will be a tweet about this video. So yeah, go down there and go to my Twitter.